is that, whoa, hang on. Why are you doing that?
Because he's
Okay,
excited.
here. Is that how you read? Yes, sort of.
Well, you may go back. I really think one of the biggest differences, Seth, is we caught you sooner.
Right.
So when you got into brand sassy in LaDuca's class, you started having to
Right.
do what normals do, so your brain, your pattern of learning changed a little bit. Up until that time, you were just,
And he would pick a book up and flip through it.
yeah,
I never could figure that out.
and he read it. That's what, when I went to school with him one semester at IUPUI, that was an experience. And his assignments, I'd sit there and I'd be reading and he was just going, like, okay. So I started reading off to myself and he would just, I go, are you done? Are you done? And that was it.
Wow.
So it was, I held
Do you
him
read
back.
fast like that? He reads fast like that too, Seth.
Mhm.
Can you read a book by flipping through the pages? Yes.
John, Seth wants to know what you know about math.
What do you know about math? It's your turn to talk. You gonna talk? Okay.
Breathe deep, breathe deep.
Seth wants to know if you're getting tired, John. Oh, the sun's coming out. Good, it'll melt my soul. Just what we all need. Good, John. Did you used to have little dogs? Your mom used to have little dogs.
Oh, we had a little dog, and then we had another big dog.
We have a big dog.
I mean, not too
We have
big.
a black lab.
We have a chocolate
We have a
lab.
chocolate lab. It's not our dog, but
Chocolate
we
lab.
didn't have a choice.
Actually, this is Natalie's dog.
Well, our chocolate lab is Katie's dog.
Yeah, our grandpuppy.
Ah, yeah, the child calls me Granny to the
Yeah,
dog.
yeah.
But I don't get her. He says,
John,
it's
stop.
okay, it's okay. I struggle with some math and I'm good at some.
That's, Seth, that's because he's never been in a regular
Right.
math class, so he didn't get taught math
So
the way you did.
that's one of
So-
our goals, is
Yes.
to work on some math. He's very smart, you'll get it. You're very smart.
You got hair in his mouth.
Did I get hair in your mouth? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you turned around.
Okay, Seth asked if you're
Okay.
tired. He asked if you're tired. You didn't answer that. No.
Oh, Laura, I should tell you. I just thought of it. Okay, I'm sorry, totally separate. Foreman taught me math, didn't your special ed teacher? I think you counted in Foreman's class, I guess that's,
I taught you math because I really still got
well, you, counting stuff, I remember that, you
Yeah.
had them separate, and now when I
We
think of,
counted money and we did time. We learned to tell time. John knows all of that.
You sorted nuts and bolts too.
Yeah.
He said that one time. I'm sorting nuts and
Okay,
bolts
that was
for
a
gold.
nightmare.
But we didn't know, we didn't know, we've talked about that.
I know, I made some mistakes, because, you know.
But as soon as we knew, and that was when Seth did go into the regular classes, John, and you should know this, he kind of started acting up because we were expecting him to do the work. And he wanted to go back and count nuts and bolts in foreman's class where his expectations were very high. He said that. And we had
Maybe
issues with
bicycle
that.
break?
We had
No,
issues with that a
together,
couple
right,
times.
together.
We had an issue with that in high school. His history teacher called me and I went in for a conference because Seth was deliberately not flunking, but lowering his grade on history tests
It was
because
Mr.
he was
Barnes.
blowing the curve for everybody in the classroom. And he deliberately started getting bad grades. And Mr. Barnes called me because he knew Seth could do better. So we had a discussion in the hallway. And Mr. Barnes says, "You will not do that again." And I told him he wouldn't do that again. So then he went back to getting A's and blowing the curve for everybody else. But I mean, and Jonathan, I'm sure, is very capable of doing the same because he wanted to fit in. And he, you know,
He says he's not tired, he's excited. Let's see, he's looking
understandable.
I think he sees a glimmer of hope.
How old is John now?
16 and a half.
So but he can stay in
John,
high school.
relax,
at
relax.
22.
22, okay.
I thought it was 21.
What, completion of
One
his-
day before their 22nd birthday.
Okay. So that gives, John, that gives you some time, it really does.
He just wants to catch up so he's at the same grade and age level with everybody else going to college.
John, Seth says you have to take the normal world slowly. What does that mean, Seth?
Do you understand what he means, take the normal world slowly? Are you dancing? You're silly.
That's pretty cool.
It's autism problem, isn't
Have to take the world slowly. They don't think like we do. They are never logical.
It's not nice.
Well, I'm wondering if you guys are so smart, why don't you just do courses in like a couple of weeks and just be ahead of everybody else and create some new developments for us and new understanding? Why don't you just flip through all your books in a course in a couple of weeks, test out and move on and solve some problems in the world that we created as normals?
Oh, that's very
You
good.
get to meet somebody that's as smart as you are.
We could if we had aides to keep up with us. Seth has become rather complacent. We've discussed now for 4 or 5 years about getting a job, and he says, why should he when his life is so perfect? So he,
I'm too smart to sit and be a couch potato.
that's what we think. But
Mm.
you like your life, don't you?
Yeah, but you're hiding your light under the bushel basket, Seth. And think of all the people that you could help.
He likes the way Seth thinks. Don't model after that. Seth's gonna get you in trouble.
David's not gonna like that. David's not gonna buy that.
I'm not buying it either.
And you guys are setting a bad example for all the little kids that are coming up
Yeah.
with autism that you can help.
Attention.
Okay.
That's true, Seth. Because he says this in class. No, I'm always willing to say yes and help. Foreman told me that was my responsibility to let others know about FC. And he always says that when he teaches
Mhm.
class, always. He always says, Mom, tell them about me. I had to explain about getting ill and everything. And then, because that takes too long for him to type it out. And then they'll inevitably, somebody says, well, why do you do this? He goes, because Foreman told me I had to. And then I go, well, who's Foreman? And then he explains who Foreman is. Foreman walks on water. So it always goes like this.
And you know what? South Anderson University is now teaching in their special ed classes about facilitated communication.
Really?
Matthew's mother gave a speech, and Jim Matthew, I shouldn't say his mother, but
Matthew.
they spoke at Anderson University, and the professor had them come, and they're actually part of the class now.
Oh, cool.
To where every time they get ready to do that section, Matthew goes and teaches.
Kind of like what Seth does at IU then.
Yep, yep.
And that's
Well,
what
and
John's
he
gonna
did
be
it
able
at
to do
IU
too.
PUI with Pat Rogan, who is now head of the education special ed or something.
Institute for the Study of Developmental Disabilities.
And I'm sorry, what? Is that who?
The Institute for the Study of
At IU?
Developmental.
Developmental
Oh, that's at IU.
Disabilities.
That's
No,
what
this
I-
is
this is
Oh,
IUPUI.
this
IUPUI.
is IUPUI. Cool. Pat Rogan, I know that name.
Dr. Rogan.
Yeah. How do I know that name?
She was at, were you at the circle?
Yeah,
That we did for
Carmen was
Seth.
part of Seth's circle.
Yes,
and
that's
she
how
was
I
And
know
she's
her.
been at our house, yeah.
Explain to them about that, the circle,
Well,
because I would like to do something like that.
we haven't got it together for, years. But what it was, and we did it through, well, Nancy set it up, but I don't
It was
remember
really
who
cool.
we did it through. It was people who would be there to support Seth. Foreman was one of them, Nancy's one, Dawn's, I mean, there's people that are always gonna be in
Friends,
Seth's life.
teachers, people
Yeah.
that have been involved
Siblings.
And we
John's
drew
life.
out kind of on
A
a
map.
long piece of paper, a map, and we had it until Facebook flooded.
But it's, in general, it's kind of a goal-setting session, but it also helps because you can lay it all out on
It
You
was
can see it,
on a big
it's
sheet of
visual,
paper.
it's all visual.
And it's
I
a nice
liked
way
that.
to clarify some of that and also kind of put some of them priorities.
Visual probably helps too.
You do the benchmark, you do benchmarks, you
Yeah.
know, what
And
is
we
your
would-
goal, by the year 2013 or
Keeping
14,
it?
I wanna graduate
Yeah.
with a diploma. Here are the things that I need to do now to be preparing for that. When I've reached that goal, then what is the next step?
Right.
Going to college, doing some public speaking, like what Seth and maybe what Matthew do, and then just walking your way through life. Where do you want to be living? Who do you want to be living with? We've already talked about a lot of those things because I remember how significant that was.
And Seth has reached that goal, Jonathan, he doesn't live with us. That's the reason we're a little,
6 years.
yeah, that's one of the reasons we're a little rusty with the facilitated communication, because the only time we facilitate is Sunday on church, and it's usually, how you doing, fine, everything okay, yeah, I mean, we just don't, but, yeah, he has friends, I mean, his
So
roommates are his best friends.
Do you have someone at home that does facilitate with you?
not really, just yes and no, but I verbalize them more, and he does.
I think that he set that as one of his goals when he moved in. He's actually verbalizing more and doing it better
I'm seeing
Now
better
that-
gestures.
than
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
was able to before.
Like-
He's improved.
He'll say,
He really has.
I need to go to the bathroom, when can I eat, where are we going, what am I gonna do? I mean, he communicates, and when we have our case conferences, cause every quarter we do a case conference, that's one thing the staff says, oh yeah, they always, I mean, they ask that, and that's one of the things, John, when you get out on your own, the staff, the other two young men that live with Seth, they're both autistic, but they're neither one are nonverbal, although Seth thinks Mike could
Could be,
facilitate, and Scott has issues, that's what he says. Anyway, Seth functions as the highest level, but they treat Seth different. They know that Seth is very intelligent, so they don't talk to him in the same way they talk to Matt and Mike and Scott. And they also, I think, John, know that Seth will tell us if something goes wrong in the house. So Seth is kind of the protector within the house. I mean, and the staff does treat him different, but and they expect him to answer.
Yeah. He has, on the inside of his bedroom door, he has yes and no signs taped up on the inside of the door so that they can actually go over and have him.
Yeah.
Point.
Now, is this what you really mean? And and he does that with it, but he does he tells him what he wants to eat. I mean, so and that was a goal that he decided, he was gonna, which makes me feel better and Keith feel better because, one of my worries, John, was always, well, if I get hit by a truck, Seth will never talk again. But I don't feel that way anymore because he can communicate, limited, but he can communicate, and that's a big step. It's just like he asked your dad today what his name was
Mm-hmm.
when we got here.
Right.
I mean, he will make those.
Seth, I am so proud of you for that.
Mm.
That was a huge goal that you've accomplished.
It's
Huge. John does communicate to us.
Uh-huh.
I mean, through typing, yes, definitely, but in other ways, he communicates.
Did Seth set goals?
That was,
So that's something we haven't done.
Right.
We haven't done
thanks. It makes it a
What are
little easier to
John's
live with normals.
other goals. I'm sorry, what did he say?
He said thanks. It makes it a little easier to live with normals. I think God, I'll have to get a hold of Nancy because we got that set up.
It was-
Ursula. What's her name?
Oh,
Melissa.
Medill. It used to be Medill.
Yeah,
I don't know if
if
it's
it is
something else.
That's someplace you might contact Ursula. Independent Resource.
It's Indianapolis Resource Center for Independent Living, IRCIL.
Close the door, John.
IRCIL.
But
And it's more for the adults. It's more an old, but Melissa Medill was.
that's where we got our.
Have you guys ever heard of Partners in Policy Making? That's
No.
kind of off the subject slightly. There is through the state, it's the Governor's Council on Planning for Disabilities or
Right. Here,
something. There is a program, they have a class or a group that goes through it every year called Partners in Policy Making. I was my first or second year they even had it, I went through it. And it's how long did that run? About 2 months, 3 months? No, it was about 6 months, but we only met about every 3 weeks. They may have changed it dramatically. But we covered, it was just as the ADA was being implemented, so there was like 91 or 2 maybe. We covered that. There were disabled people in the class, there were normal parents. It was a very good mix, and I met gobs of different people in different walks of life.
But
And it was a very good way, because we covered things like how to handle goal setting, how to deal with schools and education planning. A lot of those things were covered in there. It